In the interests of running an efficient meeting, I declare this meeting open and welcome everybody to this meeting. There are no apologies, and I now invite Councillor Rachel to open us with a karakia, please.
Thanks. Kia ora koutou. Whakatakata hau ki te uru, whakatakata hau ki te tonga, kia mākina kina ki uta, kia mātaratara ki tai, e hi aki ana te atakura, he tio, he huka, he hauhunga, tihei moriora.
Thank you. As noted already, there are no apologies from this meeting, and the order of business is quite light but meaty. And so I suggest we now move to, are you happy that that's okay? We'll now move to confirming the minutes of the last meeting held on the 21st of August. Moved Councillor Mel, seconded Councillor Rachel. From correct record, all those in favour? Aye. Thank you. Excellent. The first item on the report is a privacy update. And thank you. This report makes for very interesting reading. You clearly have some challenges. So let's take the report as read. What would you like to highlight for the committee?
Kia ora koutou. Thank you to the chair. Yes, best to take the report as read. We are seeing the continuing requests for people's own information, but that seems to have, and I'm touching wood a little bit here, plateaued a bit over the last little while, which is great. And a number of compliance matters have come through. We're seeing that as the result of increased reporting and increased awareness within the organisation, rather than any significant bumpy patches in terms of compliance. And if I may, if the committee will indulge me, I would like to take a moment to introduce Amy Rousgroom, who is helping as a privacy delegate and doing really well in this space. So I just wanted to take the moment to introduce her. Thank you, through the chair.
Thank you. Well, as I've alluded, there are some, I would suggest going to be some increasing challenges in this space. Has any members of the committee got any questions in relation to this? Councillor Mel.
Thank you, Deborah, for your presentation, brief as it was. Deborah, I'm curious, you say you're continually getting requests for information, and that's from the public generally, on their background, on what we are recording for them, what we've got on file for them. Now, here's the question. Is it a revenue earner for council? Do you charge for the time spent?
Thanks, Councillor Mayor, and through the chair, no, we are not allowed to charge for the provision of people's own information under the Act. It would require specific approval of that by the Minister, and we haven't been given that.
Have you determined how much it does cost, and hours and effort and research and so forth? Have you determined a figure?
Thank you, and through the chair, not a specific figure. Each request is on a case by case, and the level of information that people request can be different. Where we get the type of request that's any and all information held about me, and there's no time frame provided, so it's really quite extensive. We figure that it takes on average about 8 weeks to run through the process of searching all our systems, putting together the relevant information, preparing that for release, and then releasing it.
And I'll just have a final one, because I'm interested in this, because it is terribly time consuming. Is there a pattern? Is there a sort of an average over a period of years, the number of requests that come in? Is it sort of...
Thank you. Through the chair, we did look into this when we noticed that sort of anecdotally, we felt that there was an increase in requests and certainly in the complexity of requests. And we've found that there has been an increase in the requests, but probably the scope of the requests, the complexity of the requests is really what's shifted. Certainly since 2019, according to our records, it's more likely that people are asking that any and all question now than they did prior to 2019.
Thank you.
Mayor Nick.
I was just going to add for Councillor Courtney's information that council officers provided me with good information about what the costs were, and I have written to the Minister and said that we should have a provision in the Privacy Act, not dissimilar to the Local Government Official Information Act, that allows reasonable actual costs to be reclaimed. The Minister responded and said he was open-minded about it, that it wasn't a legislative priority, but as part of a statutes amendment bill that they would consider giving us a cost recovery provision in the Privacy Act.
Excellent.
Supplementary question. How often do you use that under the goima? That's a, do you use it often, or are you looking for just a safeguard?
My understanding, and officers like Alec and Deborah may be able to better understand, is that it's not that often they charge, but it is very useful to get people to consolidate and to narrow the information that they require by having that provision that you can charge and to make it so that it is more efficient. But Deborah is going to be far better informed than me on it, Catherine.
Thank you.
I better check.
Deborah, want to add?
Through the chair, no, that's quite correct.
Thank you.
It is one of a suite of tools. It's the last one that we try and use, but it is there and it can be helpful.
Just a question from me in relation to AI. Do you see that actually as increasing the risks for you in relation to the release of private information, or alternatively, do you see it supporting you to actually gather the information more quickly? So that's a two-pronged question.
Through the chair, I think there are certainly currently inherent risks to the use of AI where the data that it is working across has not been prior looked at or cleaned, but that is the same as has always been the case. If you'll forgive me, junk in, junk out, and all that AI is doing is speeding up the process of searching that. I do believe that there will be potential benefits from AI in terms of searching, speeding up that process and helping. That's not something that we've moved into so far, but I'd like to see in the future that may be a possibility.
Right, thank you. Councillor Rohan. Sorry, Nikki.
Sorry, and I was just going to add, we've got quite a reasonably strict AI policy which stops. We've kind of got internal tools that we can use, but that stops our data going up into externally. So that's probably where that privacy breach potentially is.
Thanks. That partially answers my question. Second part was just around in 6.2 in the AI in terms of an unauthorised disclosure of information in that context. Is that simply unauthorised AI having access to that data qualifying as an unauthorised disclosure, or is it the step further of that information being further disclosed to a third party?
Thank you. And through the chair, that particular matter related to an AI tool that had been it was not one that's authorised by council. It had been downloaded or accessed as part of a test case, and the tool wasn't fully and correctly removed from the device, and so was running in the background and picked up some information in a completely unintentional manner, and was dealt with from there.
So just to be clear, we're treating unauthorised AI having access to that data as an unauthorised disclosure of information in and of itself.
Through the chair, in that instance, there was a disclosure that occurred. The AI that was running in the background happened to take some notes of a further meeting that was outside the test case that it had been downloaded for.
But I guess, but in terms of the disclosure element of that, at what point did we rate that as being an unauthorized disclosure? Was it just that the AI had collected that information, or was it at the point that someone else accessed the AI to see that information?
Through the chair, at the point where there was potential access to that information.
So just the AI holding that where it is not in an authorized system, and so there exists the risk. We consider that regardless of whether or not a sort of further disclosure occurs, we're treating that as a unauthorized disclosure in terms of our policy in its own right.
Yes, that's right. It's my understanding that the particular tool in question was a closed system, so the chance of immediate disclosure to all and sundry was not there. It was a specific instance.
I'm just glad to hear we're taking a high level of risk management to it.
Yeah. Right. Are there any other questions in relation to this particular paper? Well, thank you very much. There is a recommendation that we receive this privacy update. Moved Councillor Rachel, seconded me, and all those in favour. Carried. Thank you. Good. All right. We now move to the draft annual report, and
I'll present this, please.
you're going to present
Yes,
it?
I will.
Can I make some opening statements?
Yes,
in my
certainly.
position as chair, just because I want to.
Of course.
I have to say, when I read through this morning, I thought that the narrative in this report was something that it would be really important that every ratepayer read. I thought it was extremely informative. It was well written, well constructed, and said a lot about the activities of the council. So this is a big bouquet. Well done. And I'm sure councillors that know a little bit more may have some minor points, but as a layperson reading that, I learned a lot about the activities of the council. So well done, team, and thank you very much. Now you can go.
Thank you. And obviously it's a real team effort pulling together the draft annual report, and we've got Gemma and Jessica up there in case there are any difficult questions. The reality is, so we're bringing the draft annual report here as the version that's going to audit. And, you know, it's really good to get feedback from the committee with any comments on commentary or tone or things like that that you think need to be looked at before. Obviously, the way the timetable works and the way the timetable works with audit is that we will bring the final back to the full council meeting before the statutory deadline. So happy to take any feedback.
Right, I'll open it up. Lindsay.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I've taken the opportunity of providing some feedback directly on a couple of matters that were kind of top of mind for me as a consequence of other assignments I've recently had. And I've been provided with some reassurance that the officers will have a wee look at that. And I also would like to reinforce the comments you made. I think it tells a great story of a committed organisation making substantial efforts to achieve its milestone. So I think that's fantastic. Just in terms of the recommendation, I had a moment where I thought I recalled a slightly different approach that the committee took to the recommendation in front of it. And I just checked back through the minutes, and 2 years ago, we added clause to the recommendation for the reason that one of the functions of this committee is to recommend the adoption of the annual report to the council. And I felt this recommendation was a bit passive because it doesn't give the council a clear indication of the view of the committee, and it's our job to present that. For the officers, the resolution that we added is part of the it's ARF 2023-037. And it essentially says, confirms to council that the Audit Risk and Finance Committee has reviewed the draft annual report and audit process and is satisfied that the audit annual report is on track for council adoption prior to the 31st of October. I suggest when we come to it that we consider tacking that on again. I think it's critically important, especially in an election year,
Yes.
with potential adoption by an incoming council as opposed to the outgoing council, that assurance is given by the committee.
Any observations or comments? I think that's sensible, and we should add it in. So at the appropriate time, we'll add that in. Thank you, Lindsay. All right, now I open it up for any other comments from council members. Mayor Nick.
Yeah, the one comment I had about it, and it is a very good report from trying to get a good sense of what the council is doing, and like others found it quite informative. The only part that I wondered about is if you want your public documents to be well connected with the community that you're serving. And I was quite taken back by the sharp increase over this year in the number of our ratepayers that are in arrears. Effectively, in value gone up by 50% and numbers gone up by 30%. Now, I'm not sure where it should be in the report, but it just sort of felt a bit disconnected from the reality of the community struggling to pay their rates. That you've got this issue where you've got a huge increase in the number of people in arrears, and it's not mentioned anywhere.
Mayor's forward.
Yeah, maybe. And I've looked at it. It just feels a little bit strange that people aren't silly in understanding that the mayor's forward, and I've got my draft and written out.
Mm-hmm.
But I did wonder whether. So can I just in terms of the content, Nikki, is that one of the biggest issues for the public in their interaction with the council is the paying your rates bill.
Yes.
I get continuously nervous because the rates are such a damn complicated mechanism, and I've seen councils drop the ball on their rates collection. That even the mechanics of reporting that this is a function that Nikki and her team may do very well. And I just didn't feel that even that part of the operation was being reported, Nikki.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I can have a look at it. It probably falls within that kind of corporate activity. So we could add a bit of a theme there.
That's also the years.
Yeah, but also the mayor's forward might help as well.
But I don't want to be a pain in the ass. Add amendments that are going to add extra work as you try and get the things through the audit office and the like.
Yeah.
But I'm always wanting to apply a lens of these documents and saying, when the public pick up the annual report for the council, what is the things going to be on? Yes, of course, it'll be on their mind is how have you done with the infrastructure and the water and the transport and the climate change and the regulatory and the finances. But saying something about this is the amount of rates that we've collected and this is the amount that people are falling behind, and we acknowledge that more people are under pressure. And what's more, actually, there's a good story to tell in the work that Nikki and her team are doing, and we're helping people with the rates rebate and trying to make sure people can access to that. And I saw some numbers of the number of people that we've entered into agreements with around where they've got behind and how we're responding to it. So I'm not unhappy with what we're doing. It just feels it should be part of the story that we're expressing.
Yeah. Other comments in relation to Mayor Nick's points? You're happy that we ask officials to consider that, and we've made some suggestions as to where that might
Which page is Mayor Nick referring to in particular?
Well, my issue is that it's not really mentioned. But I'm quite happy with the suggestion from the chair that it really fits within Nikki's corporate services area.
Yes.
And so that would seem a logical section to have, and to just simply comment on.
Which number is the rates arrears on that you're referring to?
Sorry?
Which page number is the rates arrears on that you're referring to?
I'm not. That's my point. But no,
Well, surely they'll be in the financial tables at the back.
There's a general item of accounts receivable and non-current liabilities, but unless you were a nerd, you wouldn't know that that would include rates arrears. It includes also bills that are for other things other than rates.
I mean, there's some options to put some commentary in the narrative under the corporate section, which is on page 89 of our 184, to talk about maybe there. I suggested the mayor in his forward might like to make some observation, recognising maybe the tough economic conditions, and etc. And the other question, or the other place where it might be quite useful, I don't know, is in the rates part of the financial statements. You could put a note or a footprint if you wanted to. Could be the third place, which would just recognise.
I'm more than happy to leave it to the discretion of Nikki and team just to find out where does it appropriately fit in terms of just being an honest reporting of what the situation is and what we are doing actively to try and help assist people where they are facing difficulty.
Yeah. Councillor Mel.
Thank you, Chair Catherine. I think it'd be remiss of us not to include this in both the Mayor's forward and also in the report itself, because it's fundamental to what we do, collect the rates and we spend them. And so I think it's imperative that we do have that in there. Can I go off onto another, just a matter that my memory tells me about audit fees in here? It references those and tells us that $354,226 was paid to the Audit New Zealand. And I'm just wanting to know, did we progress study into this to see whether we get a more competitive price from some other quarter?
Happy to pick up. So with the great help of Nikki and the Chief Executive, I wrote to the Auditor General. It is totally at the discretion of the Auditor General as to whether they'll allow us to use private sector people to do the Auditor General services, but I understand there are about 13 or 14. Nikki, I can't recall the exact number of councils that have it. Subsequently to that, the Chief Executive travelled to Wellington, met with the Auditor General. There's just been a change in the office holder. He found the new Auditor General quite receptive to Nelson City Council's concerns, both about the standard of service that we'd received, as well as the option of being able to use a private sector. The decision is yet to be made. So we haven't had a formal response, but I don't want to speak for the Chief Executive, but the tone I got from him was that the meeting was very constructive and that the new Auditor General was quite sympathetic. There's a third element to it, of which we have not yet had joy, and that is in the water area. I worry that you've got the Commerce Commission, that you've got new water regulator, and you've got the Auditor General all crawling all over Alec and his water team and seeing whether they've done their job. And I think there is duplication, and I think there needs to be a sort out at central government level between those three agencies and make sure there isn't duplication, because in every one of the cases, we're also not just paying for them to do it to us, it is also taking up time of Alec's staff and responding to the queries from three different regulatory authorities and how we manage it. And I'm not sure overall it's serving the public purpose well.
Thank you. We note that.
So things are progressing and I'm very happy about that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Are there any other observations or comments in relation to the report as presented to us?
I just want to add.
Councillor, sorry, I'll go to you, Councillor Mel, and then to Rohan.
Yes, I just want to add and repeat exactly what you said and the Mayor has said, and that I thoroughly enjoyed reading this report. It was so easy to read. And it was so interesting. And so congratulations to those responsible for preparing this, because I think it's something we can be proud of. It really is. So I don't want to be left out in the congratulations stake.
You will never be left out.
Okay.
Right, Councillor Rohan.
Yeah, just on the outstanding rates discussion, as I just think the other important bit to consider is how that information is presented relative to what is actually being talked about in it.
Yes.
Like in terms of the financial report, if we consider it as a percentage of total rates income, and tells quite a different story to if we talk about in terms of individual ratepayers or talk about in terms of the total number. And so I'm a little unclear in terms of the narrative. If we're putting it in different sections, I think the relevance of it shifts from, is this about telling a story of the total risk of outstanding rates? Well, that risk, broadly speaking, hasn't increased because as a percentage of the total rates take, it's remained relatively similar. But if we're talking about it in terms of telling that story of community hardship, then you might be talking more in terms of total number of ratepayers and that increase. And so I'm just a little unclear as to where the best spot for that to sit in this report is, depending on what the intention of the narrative to be told is.
I understand. There are two, as Councillor Rohan says, is this an empathetic, where we listen to and understand our community and respond to their needs sort of response, or is it?
Yeah,
I think which I took it was, but
I take Rohan's point's quite correct, and that is the level of rates in arrears to a point where it is a financial risk to the organisation? No, it's not. And the actual level of write-offs is very low. Having said that, the value of rates in arrears at the end of the financial year, 30 June 25, was 50% higher than the previous year and higher than any other year on our record.
Mhm.
Well, to me, that is material and significant. And all I'd like to do is just to record that openly, and also to record alongside it. And here is the steps our council is taking to support those ratepayers out in arrears, both in terms of the increased use of the rates rebate and the agreements that we're coming to with ratepayers. And I think it needs to report both the sum and the number of ratepayers that are in arrears, both of which have sprung up. And it's not, I don't want it represented in a view that says, oh, this is because we put the rates up last year. I think the chair's commentary, and that was, this is a reflection of the level of economic pressure that both business and residential ratepayers are under. Because I think that's the answer. It's more to do with that.
Okay. I guess that's out. I also think that is partially tied to we put the rates up. Is the total, if you just were to take a static number of households or ratepayers struggling to pay, and then the total rates and billing increases, your total amount of rates outstanding makes sense to increase. And so that's where it's just, I'm supportive of the commentary so far. But I also think actually you can draw, and when we look at that sort of longer term data, it does increase on a relatively linear basis with the total rates take.
The total rates take, Rohan, last year, if you include the introduction of the storm recovery levy, was 14.6%. The value of rates in arrears grew by 49%.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going, if I go into the annual report and look at our actual rates from 25 versus 24 and the percentage of arrears, it's sitting at roughly around 1% for both those. I obviously then get into the complexity of when a rate bill is going out and all of that. I think we're all in agreement. I think you can't fully detach that total value from the total value of the rates take when you do see such a clear and relatively consistent relationship between the two.
Don't disagree with that.
okay. Well, look, I think I've seen Nikki writing furiously, so I think she has taken on board the comments that have been made. Councillor Rachel?
Could they just be circulated to the committee?
Yes.
Whatever's
Just
going to
the
be
changes.
included? Just yeah, that would be helpful.
That would be good. Thank you. So are there any other observations or comments or feedback to council on the draft 2025 annual report? Well done. All right. We have a recommendation that we receive the report, that we note it will be audited, and that we confirm to the council that you can see the motion, the third recommendation.
Happy to move, Madam Chair.
Moved, accepted, Councillor Rachel, all in favour? Carried. Thank you very much. We will now move to exclude the public
So
from
moved.
the meeting.
So moved.
So moved, seconded, Councillor Rohan, because we have some confidential matters to discuss.